Hello to all our wonderful viewers and listeners. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Not Wasting a Single Story. I am your hostess, Dr. Gamuchirai Mutezo, and I'm the one who will be poking people who are championing wonderful things within the waste sector, people who will be letting us know where the opportunities are, and most importantly, just getting to know the people behind some of these accolades, these activities, and every little thing in between. You know me, I like to jump straight into it and poke my guests. Today, I'm joined by a very beautiful, bright young mind named Modupi. I've been following you on LinkedIn. That's where we first had our interaction, and we had the pleasure of meeting at a conference. I listened to you speak. I was like, I like what she has to say. It will be amazing to have her on the green couch. Modupi, welcome.
Thank you, Gamo.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Before we get into the technical stuff and so forth, earlier on you were telling me about Limpopo. And I just want to know more about you. Who is Modupi? Where did she grow up? What does she do for fun? And most importantly, is she based in Gauteng or is she based in Dubai? We need to know these things.
Okay. So I was originally born in Mankweng. I'm Betty by birth.
Gyakwishisha.
Yeah, Gyakwishisha Mabari. I was born of two Betty parents in Bodokwani and then relocated to Venda, Limpopo. That's where I grew up. I mean, that's where I spent most of my life, actually. So when I say I'm Betty born, but I'm Venda bred.
Nice. You're a hybrid.
I'm a hybrid,
Okay.
yeah. So I spent all my young and adult life in Venda. So primary school, high school, and varsity. Friends, life, most of it is from Venda.
Yeah.
So I actually did my BSc in Environmental Sciences with the University of Venda.
Okay.
Yeah, all up to honors. And yeah, I think life in Limpopo is just as it is. It's greenery, it's amazing, the people, the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't fault it for anything.
Beautiful. And you speak all the languages we find in Limpopo.
I don't want to say all of them. So funny story, I actually went to boarding school in Zim for 2 years. So I do understand a bit of Shona as well.
Okay, no more gossiping about it, clearly.
No, you cannot. So, I am quite fluent in Sepedi, in Chivenda. I do understand Tsonga. I can't speak it though. Chilobedu, which is a weird blend of Pedi and Venda.
Okay.
And those are the Limpopo languages that I do understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then since you asked if I'm based in Gauteng or Dubai, I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm based in Gauteng, in Johannesburg, up in the north. I've been around Gauteng, I think, for the past plus 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And growing up in a naturally beautiful setting such as Limpopo, as well as studying environmental sciences, how's been that transition of leaving home and getting into Gauteng, especially from an environmental lens?
Yeah. So, weird story. I thought I was going to be a metallurgical engineer. I mean, it sounded cool when we're doing career week in varsity. But when I got to varsity, obviously my points were not enough to do the degree that I desired.
Yeah.
So obviously they place you in a relatable field, so which was environmental sciences. So in the first year, I was like, okay, this is actually quite interesting, especially when we did ecology and resource management. I was like, oh, so I'm not just going to be hugging trees here, you know. So I grew to love it because I was an avid geography learner. I mean, I enjoyed geography in high school. So I wanted a degree that still allowed me to feed my inner child, which was geography. So diving into that, obviously, environmental sciences I'd like to say it's a bit more generic.
Yeah.
It's not like specializing in a way because There's biogeography, there's geomorphology, there's GIS, there's this and that. And then when you leave, that's where you go into your special fields, I believe. So me getting into sustainability was just pure luck. It was just pure luck, an opportunity that I was afforded. I mean, it was the weirdest thing. You know how sometimes if you're a firm believer and then they say, no, the job that is yours, you won't even apply for, it'll come to
connect you.
Yes. So this one came for me, and it was the most exciting thing. So when I got into sustainability, it wasn't something I had planned. So growing up in a greenery environment, you learn to appreciate it, and in appreciating it, you want even future generations to enjoy the pleasures of a green and lush environment.
Yeah.
Because living in Gauteng, I mean, you get patches of parks and you're lucky if it's a clean park. So so it allows you to want to explore more into how can I teach myself and teach others in preserving that and containing it, or containing, in terms of allowing yourself to be a vessel, in terms of preserving it for future generations. So that's why I was like, this is definitely my calling. This is where I need to be. I didn't know I needed to be there until I was there. Yeah.
This is so encouraging. I borderline want to hug you right now, because we talk about the role and importance of our upbringing, the environment around us, how it influences the decisions that we'll make tomorrow. And so what you've shared right now, particularly to our viewers and listeners, is just reminding them that take heed of your natural environment and acknowledge that you're a custodian of keeping it the way it needs to be kept.
Sure.
Linked to that, how best can we be changing people's mindsets, especially in today's age, in cities where rapid urbanization is just happening at a flicker of an eye? Or rapid waste generation is also happening at a flicker of an eye.
Sure.
How can we change people's mindsets to equally see the opportunities that the natural environment has to offer?
It's like you're listening in on the conversation I was having with myself on my way here. So I know that being in waste is, you're always solution driven, like more than anything, instead of looking at where the problem is starting from, which is in this case, it's rapid urbanization, which then prevents service providers from being able to access these locations, right? So for me, it's my train of thought.
I really like what you said about the impact growing up in Limpopo has had, being in that natural environment. Now, coming to Gauteng, where, as you've indicated, you have to look for those patches of greenery. The decision makers sit here, they don't have access to the beauty on a daily basis of this natural environment. Now, how can we change people's mindset so that they can also introspect about the role they have to take care of it?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Do we need to put them on buses to Mahuba's Kloof?
Maybe.
Retreats in Toyando?
They could go there and smell the fresh air, and when they come back, they're like, you know what? I need to make some lifestyle changes. But yeah, it's more of I've also discussed it with a colleague of mine that it's psychological behavioral thing. Psychologists can come in and discuss that. But it's something that you have to instill in people.
Yes.
I'll give you a very close example, which is my grandfather. Ever since I was a child, there's a nice stack or heap at the backyard. We don't throw away our food waste, right? We do not, like my grandfather does not throw food. He chucks it into the compost.
Yes.
Even now, I'll share those pictures with you. And there's another stash of aluminum cans in our backyard, like where my grandparents stay. So for me, it was like, this is my grandfather. He doesn't know anything about sustainability, but he practices it without knowledge of it existing.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it was like, this is something that even my youngest niece has grown to understand, that we don't throw out food.
Yeah.
We chuck it in the backyard along with the heap of other food waste that is there. Food, garden waste, everything. So I feel like this is something that it starts with any normal person. You need to understand the impact that being a pro environmental protector starts with everyone. I mean, we're all living in it. We are all speck in the ecosystem here. So everyone has a role to play.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it could be me as an environmentalist. My role is to educate, right? What I have learned, what I have studied, I educate. And even where I was working previously, we did training.
Yeah.
We were training the normal person in any company, which was to educate people in terms of social waste segregation at source.
Yes.
So these are things that some people will be like, I didn't even know I needed to do that. Because it's not your everyday in-school education. It's not instilled in high school, in primary. Fine, they will do awareness shows or events, but that's like once in a very long time. Like, this is something that should be incorporated in syllables. It should be incorporated in varsity. And having engaged with fellow graduates, like newly graduates that are also in their sustainability field, they'll be like, I didn't even know I needed to do that. And I'm in this field. Because everything that is taught by the book is absorbed, isn't it?
Yes.
So if they could dedicate a chapter, at least in terms of sustainability, how as any normal person, how you can contribute to your environment. Like in most places, primary schools, kids usually get excited at these things.
Yeah.
When they're like, no, bring your cans to school, bring this, like, and teaching people the value in waste. If people stop seeing waste as filth, dirt, junk, and they start seeing the value that is in waste itself, like how much they can actually benefit in terms of them recycling, them separating, them avoiding cross-contamination between good grades and taking them for recycling, and they get rebates in return. I mean, that's why most places have buyback centers for that, to encourage people to be recyclers, to be sustainable, to be a driving force in terms of avoiding pollution within their communities.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be that. It starts with instilling it from a young age through high school and varsity.
Absolutely splendid. You remind me of this term called traditional ecological knowledge, where sustainability and circularity, they're really not anything new under the sun, right? It's a matter of the new innovations that are coming up in terms of how to do it, but it's nothing new under the sun. And so as a key takeaway for some of our listeners is that it has to start at home. There has to be an intention where you converse about this as parents, as nephews and nieces, as colleagues, even at work. How are you playing your part to address this waste-related issue that we find within our urban areas? You do have a variety of proverbs that will always say charity begins at home. And this is just one of those examples that you've highlighted, which is excellent. And adding on to that, you've completed your studies at Univen. You found yourself here in Johannesburg. What were you doing here?
I was laughing.
Adulting 2.0.
But I wasn't initially in the environmental sphere or industry before. In as much as, yes, I was in administration, but it did obviously instill some day-to-day living in terms of an employee or someone that is trying to find their footing in the world. Obviously, and also to just keep your mind engaged, because you can't just idle. You know, an idle mind is a
Devil's workshop.
So I kept busy as much as I could. I also tried I did actually. I went back to school. I did my SAMTRAC, which is your safety and management training, which also quite came in handy because we do study the NEMA Act a lot in
Yes.
there. So it allowed me to familiarize myself with the legislature and the act and the 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 direction that the government is trying to pioneer environmental aspects into, even though it's quite a challenge. But eventually I found myself in environmental sustainability. I was a sustainability lead for a very successful waste management company. And that is where I was like, I didn't even know we did this. Like I just saw pick it up trucks and I'm like, okay, they're just gonna take it to a dumping site. And that's just it. I didn't know there was like a whole world in between that process from a consumer to landfill.
An entire value chain.
You get it? I was mind blown. Like, how did I not know this? And that's where I found myself in sustainability. And since then, I was like, my heart has been stolen. This is where I need to be.
Are you looking for a best friend? That's awesome.
Because, more than anything, I just feel like in as much as, yes, we are adults, we have bills and there's life and there's everything else. But more than anything, any normal person would like to make an impact.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way. It could be within your field, it could be socially or in any way. But I feel like I have the strong desire to make a very vast and widespread contribution to the sustainability sphere, because I feel like there's so much to tap into that we haven't even tapped into as a country.
Yeah.
Because obviously we lack the infrastructure amongst many other things, and we're still also finding our feet as a country that's trying to be sustainable. We're trying to understand sustainability concepts and how to achieve them, as opposed to first world countries. But now I'm like, how do I make a change? How do I, as a speck in this huge world, come into this industry and say, aha, that's where I need to squeeze myself into.
Yeah.
So that's when my job ended. I felt like, you know what, I still wanted to do more.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to end there.
You fell in love.
I fell in love with the crafts. Yeah. Knocked me off my feet.
Oh, goodness. I tell people that, and a good friend of mine, Rachel,
Yeah.
I always reference her. The first time I told her that waste is beautiful, she couldn't fathom it. She's like, how can you love waste?
Yeah.
I'm like, it happens. People fall in love with this thing. It's a resource. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have conversations with people who've also fallen in love with this wonderful resource. All right. You have finished this particular step as a sustainability lead. Your love is still there.
It's burning.
What are you up to right now? Does it also involve you exploring where you see yourself fitting in this value chain?
Yeah, it does. So basically, what I've been busy with right now, I've been doing a whole lot of research, because I don't just want to break into the field, because I understand most practices, most industry practices, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do everything.
Yeah.
Because there is enough pie for everyone. There's enough slice of cake for everyone.
We have too much waste to try and hog onto it and say it's mine.
Yeah. So I have been doing research in terms of what spoke to me the most.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it has allowed me to just immerse myself into research right now. Like predominantly, I've been busy with a lot of research, trying to educate myself in terms of what's needed, because the field I'm trying to break into is quite stringent in terms of legislature. There's a lot of red tape involved, because it's dominantly hazardous waste.
Yeah.
So we all know it's not the easiest in terms of the fact that you're dealing with hazardous waste. It could be medical or whichever field it is. So there's licensing, there's certifications, there's this, there's that. So I've been stacking up as much information as possible. So as when I put myself out there, I'm knowledgeable, because you can't expect someone to buy what you can't sell, right? So you need to understand what it is that you are venturing into.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I wasn't quite knowledgeable in, but I felt drawn to it.
Yeah.
That, okay, imagine in a world where there is a hospital that has achieved circular economy status, net zero status, you know? And that's why I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Okay.
And the fact that we are a long way from it, a very long way. But it's not that it's not completely unachievable.
Yeah. And your interest is particularly hazardous waste.
So focal points.
Focal point. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Focal point, but not limited to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not limited to. There'll be other avenues, and obviously consultancy, because I have background in engaging with clients in terms of helping them achieve their sustainable goals, because most of these people have international mandates that they need to meet.
Absolutely.
So in doing so, it has taught me quite a lot. And also, I do plan on going back to school, getting my net zero accreditation, and also obviously handling and disposal of hazardous waste certification, and it's a long list. Like, learning doesn't stop, actually.
You stop learning the day you stop taking your last breath.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I like that you are dabbling in hazardous waste. I haven't come across people who have a intentional interest in exploring that space. What are some of the things that you're finding in your research? Are there gaps that can definitely be maximized, or is it still a space that needs further research for us to have a better understanding?
Actually, it's a good thing you asked. So before, we were just speaking about why I dropped out of my master's, because I felt like it wasn't feeding into what spoke to me. So I recently attended a networking event with the GBCSA, and I engaged with some of the ladies that work at GBCSA.
That's the Green Building Council, right?
Yes, the correct, actually.
Awesome.
So I was speaking to Abby. She's one of the ladies there. And she was like, there's not enough research in that field. Like, sustainable management in terms of hazardous waste. Yes, the service providers are there, but there's not enough research in it. Like, right now, most of it is just being disposed and incinerated.
Yes.
But because no one is no one is actively tapping into that research and making sure that we are channeling our knowledge in the right direction. So obviously, the gaps are there, but dominantly a lot of research is still due, and which is where I'm trying to find myself in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be that academic that seeks to bridge that gap between what is currently being done in terms of waste management for hazardous waste.
Yeah, a practical academic.
Yes. So AB gave me such a good idea, and since then I was like, it gave me that aha moment. I was like, okay, you know what? This is it. Because previously when I spoke to you, I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Like, I want to scream, you know? But also attending these networking events also helps a lot, because this engagements that we have with different people could spark something in you that you didn't even know you needed, you know? So in attending that, I was like, okay, I didn't know what to focus on because I understood most of the practices in the field, but I was like, everybody's doing that, everybody's doing this, everybody's doing that. But what can I do to make a difference or bring about change in a specific niche of the waste management industry?
Yeah.
And it led me to actually being an academic, going back to become a full-on academic and doing research in terms of how net zero can be achieved in terms of clinics, hospitals, government-owned, privately owned hospitals, and just trying to bridge that gap between medical and sustainability.
As you're speaking, I'm even wondering,
How?
aside from incineration, what else can we do with hazardous waste? Could we make products out of it? If we were to make products, what would it be? An upcycled nail? Upcycled skin? Oh, what? And that really also encourages innovation from some of our viewers and listeners to equally be part of that research trend to see what innovations we put out there. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm curious. Does your family know you like hazardous waste or you love waste in general?
My mom would be disappointed. We hate hospitals at home. No, she doesn't.
Oh, okay. In the event that you pioneer something remarkable tomorrow, okay, what would you, I'm trying to phrase it in a way that is easy for a 5-year-old.
Yes. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Exactly. You pioneer something great out there. What would your approach be to ensuring that the necessary decision makers can incorporate it into, whether it's primary schools or TV?
Yeah.
Like, how do we reach our decision makers to take our research and do something with it?
I was going to say networking.
Yeah. Okay, we can add networking. That's one of them.
Networking. Yeah. So also, there's a very high need or desire for industrial symbiosis in terms of waste management.
Interesting. Okay.
Like syncing our synergies between different industries, right? So if it's, for example, I'm not going to use hazardous waste because I'm still doing research and I don't want to be dumbfounded.
Fair point.
So it could be organic waste, for example.
Yeah.
There's someone that has that owns a retail store. I mean, not retail. Okay, yeah, retail or a shopping center. There's always food waste that is being produced there, and then you own a composting site, right? And then someone owns licensing trucks to transport organic waste because you can't just. And obviously, some of them you need licensing in terms of like COPs. What do they call it? When you're transporting carcasses, like meat carcasses.
Yes. So your abattoir waste.
Yes. So creating a platform that I can access, and I know that I'm looking for an organic waste service provider, or I'm looking for a composting site.
Yeah.
Without having to like go on Google and punching in every single thing, because some people are no longer in service, some are not. So creating that platform, for me, that's how I see it. Creating a platform where all these people, both service providers, consumers, and those that are in need of a certain service can come to a certain platform and say, okay, you know what, I'm looking for someone that's going to come take my plastics, my bottles, my food waste. And also someone has compost, but they don't know where to take it. And then here comes a farmer or, you know, that kind of, I don't know if I'm explaining
I'm
it to
seeing
you.
it. Tinder for waste.
Swipe left.
Plastic, no.
Yeah.
Ooh, organic, swipe right. Okay.
So in a perfect world, for me, that would be the best way to address that.
Yeah.
Finding a platform that allows you to just engage with people from different waste grades.
Yeah.
And not it being such a tedious task and the whole gatekeeping that happens in waste management. Like, if we could just loosen those reins a bit, you know? Because if we just prioritize making profits, we'll never really address the problems that we have. And at some point, it's just going to become too much and too overwhelming that someone will be like, you know, I can't do this anymore. And by then, it's a little bit too late. But if we if we at least, fine, I get it, we've got bills to pay, but if we could at least just also deep down search in our hearts that, you know what, at the end of the day, this is our livelihood. This is our kids' livelihood, our grandkids. And if we can also pour into that and look at it from that aspect that we are not only making money, but we are also creating a clean and safe and sustainable environment for our kids and their kids' kids.
Yeah.
So having that platform for me it would also help me.
Yeah.
I needed to, to engage and interact with people from different waste grade sectors or recyclers, circularity structures. That would work, in my opinion.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Probably another take home for our listeners and viewers is that let's not hog onto data and information about waste, because really we end up doing the complete opposite of what we want to achieve for our natural environment. Like we're saying, there's just a whole lot of waste material for everyone. I mean, you unpack the value chain, each and every type of waste presents its own fair share of opportunities. And so I also want to believe that we don't have enough, say, consultants or entrepreneurs that will exhaust that entire platform. And so if we're able to bring our content together for such a centralized system, knowing who's who and how we complement the value chain, we can certainly look at having a impactful approach while we pay the bills.
Agreed.
Awesome. As we round up our conversation, where to from here? Yes, you're in the process of research, but where to? What's your vision? Where does your heart guide you to?
To the moon.
Wow.
SpaceX. Actually, I just feel like the seed that's been planted in my heart in this aspect, because I feel like that's what it is. It's not just about keeping busy or anything. It's more about bringing about change in terms of how we fit into this world, how we fit into the sustainability sphere, because it's an umbrella for different ideologies and concepts that every normal person has a role to play in terms of how we all feed into achieving the end goal here.
Yeah.
And my desire would be contributing or making an impactful research or an impactful initiative that sparks joy, or someone else would be like, you know what, I'm also in the medical sphere and I would like to participate in this. And also producers that produce the medical compartments or items. On some, you know what, they use PVC for the, what do you call this?
Those things.
Those things, man.
Yeah, those ones, guys. Those
The drips, you know. Is there a more sustainable material we can use? Also, service providers. I mean, the ones that are incinerating or disposal. And in as much as I know it's hazardous waste, and there's only so much you can do. I mean, also because you need to also protect the individual that's handling it. But I still feel like there's so much we can save from that. And that is where I would like to come in and say, you know what, I want to make a difference here. Incineration is not the solution.
Yeah.
Disposal is not the solution. There has to be something. You know, we come from a planet that in itself practices circularity.
Yeah.
From oxygen, from water. It's a close-ended cycle. It's not close-ended, actually, it's a loop.
Yeah.
You know how in geography, like, we get water from the dam, it evaporates, comes back, you know? So if Mother Earth could do that, why can't we also practice the same drive she has in terms of keeping her planet clean,
Yeah.
you know? I believe that as long as that grade is coming from a raw material, there's got to be something we can do about it. So that's where I want to fit in terms of not just saying it's a high-hanging fruit. No one wants to recycle that. No one wants to upcycle this. No one wants to handle that. Or it's your less desirable grades. There's no money in that. So that is where I would like to fit in and say, you know what, I want to see how other worlds are doing it, how other countries are doing it, and how can we put that in best practice here at home. We can't be going out there searching for greener pastures when they say we live in a land of milk and honey, and you're not trying to find that milk and honey that suits you.
Yeah.
Because milk and honey is different for people. For us, it's waste.
Yes.
That's our milk and honey, as nasty as it sounds. But it's a glorious milk and honey. It's enriching. It's enriching lives. I mean, look at Madame Ways, for example. I mean, we actually started interacting. Now I remember. We started interacting because I was looking for an organic waste service provider. Yes. And that is where your milk and honey is. It's an organic waste. And you're capitalizing from that. And you're still making a difference in it. So me as an environmental scientist and wanting to be knowledgeable in terms of my focal point being hazardous waste, how can I engage with other people, infrastructure, government, legislator, all these people, and say, guys, how can we make a difference here? That cannot be the only solution. I mean, we're running out of landfill space. At some point, we're going to have to start looking for other solutions.
Yeah.
And incineration is not really driving the force because now we're burning stuff. And if we're going to practice being sustainable and also with the whole global warming thing, we need to find another way that doesn't involve burning stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the how do I fit in?
Beautiful. If I can share my 1 cent.
Sure.
I see an opportunity to optimize the value chain, the sub-value chain within the healthcare space.
Yeah.
Like you're indicating, from collection, disposal, and seeing who the players are.
Yeah.
So that, particularly at the disposal site, understanding the different types of hazardous waste, how can they be upcycled, redesigned, refurbished? And that's where the 9 frameworks of circularity come in. And if we start to poke our minds along those lines, for all you know, you could use stethoscopes. That's one word I always struggle to pronounce. Yes.
That's easier.
Stethoscopes with that one.
Yeah.
To upcycle art. You could use the and that word.
The needles.
The needles to create other products that may not necessarily feed back into the healthcare sector, but could feed into other sectors. And that in itself presents those opportunities even for entrepreneurs to run with your findings and start to experiment and prototype. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm wishing you nothing less of the best as you pave the way, as you champion the research component. And tomorrow may it become practical. May it inspire those who are figuring out what they can do within the space to explore your findings. Yeah. So once again, thank you so much for being on the green couch, for sharing a slice of who you are, what has inspired you to be here, and where you want to go.
Yeah.
The whole idea is for those who will get into our space to equally fall in love. Sure. And I'm sure they'll fall in love with the content. Yeah.
That's exciting. And thank you for having me. I mean, even just sitting here, it's quite encouraging that not only do you see the vision that I have, but the fact that someone else out there could also say, you know what, I've also been meaning to try. And this invites a branching of synergies that could form, and this platform that you've created for some of us, I mean, it's quite indulging.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you draw a lot of insight from this conversation, and please do keep an eye out on this lady. She's onto something with this healthcare waste management component. Until the next episode, thank you and take care.